Hey, good day, everybody. I'm Marty Walser, also known as Raging Owlbear on social media, and welcome to a long overdue episode of Running Storm King's Thunder. Tonight, I'm going to talk about Maelstrom, um, and my part. A lot of things have been going on in my campaign. It's been a while since I've done one of these videos, but they're coming down to the final chapter. They're they're they've learned about who Iymrith is, and what she was doing, and they're haven't quite got to Hekaton yet, but they're working their way that way. They've gone through Maelstrom, so we're coming to the big final boss. But there was one thing that coming into Maelstrom, there's a lot of things about the plot that either were holes or just I didn't feel followed necessarily, didn't sit right with me, and I needed a way to kind of bring all these little strings, these little plot threads together more logically that made sense to me, essentially, so I could put a big bow on this, on the plot, do the reveals to the party, and have it at least make some sense. So there was a few things, especially coming into the Maelstrom part of the game, that I wanted to sort of clarify in my own mind, what is really going on in the plot. So I made some sort of lore changes, because there were some big questions that were really sticking out of my mind. Well, why is the Kraken involved in the first place? The book loosely says why, but I didn't feel like there was that much motive for the Kraken to get involved. So, why is he working with Iymrith, or it? She, it. It's a Kraken. Um, why wasn't Queen Neri resurrected or raised when they found the body? Why is Hekaton missing? Why is he not dead? Um, so I wanted to sort of come up with these ideas. I've been thinking about them for a while before they get to Maelstrom, because there's, the party was going to ask some obvious questions, or they could just walk in and be like, hey, let's just resur, situation solved. Yay, we're the heroes. We raise the queen, or whatever. Not that they necessarily have that magic available to them at the moment, but point being is there are ways for the party to come in with a lot of magic or do what, and what if they do speak with dead, what if they, I had to think of all these little contingencies of, because the party has a lot of power in their hands. What are the obvious reasons that the giants either didn't do these things, or maybe they did these things but they didn't work out? So and some of my answers actually worked really nicely with the way I decided the things that had sort of even already happened. As I sort of pieced the puzzle together, I saw, oh, okay, well, now I have something here. So first off, why don't they raise Queen Neri? And what I did is, what I decided through thinking about this is, for whatever reason, resurrection magic is not working with the giants. And so as I thought more about this, I was like, well, maybe now that the ordning's broken, Anam has kind of cut things off. And it's not that the giants usually have resurrection magic available to them all the time. They don't have that many really powerful spellcasters, but they're giants, they're powerful, they probably have faction allies. Somebody is going to be able to resurrect them. But I decided, you know what? Anam, the ordning's broken. Anam has cut them off. Once the soul leaves the body and goes over to the next world, to be with their giant gods, with the ordning broken, Anam is like, nope, you guys need to figure out your crap before I'm going to let you start resurrecting people again. And again, it's not that that's resurrection is that common among the giants, but it was just a plot hole that I thought I really needed to close. So then that brought me back to sort of Hekaton. Okay, so Hekaton has been captured. Why is he captured? Why isn't he being killed like Neri? was, um, what does the Kraken get out of holding Hekaton? And I was like, you know what? The Kraken wants to rule the seas. And not just the Sword Coast, but like I have in my game world, I'm home brewing, so I'm running Storm King's Thunder not on the Sword Coast, in my own world. So I had to make changes, obviously, and I had to pull in some of the towns and whatnot, or find an equivalent location in my world to fit, some of the locations in the book, because, well, as you know, the Sword Coast is huge. But what I decided is Yartar is in this inland sea, and the Kraken is expanding his influence. He's trying to take over Yartar with Lord Dryland and the Hand of Yartar, the Thieves Guild there, and he wants to rule the sea, where the Storm Giants are, and the Storm Giants are kind of a thorn in his side. So he doesn't have, he's playing this long game. He's like, I want to really expand my influence. I want to rule the seas. I want to rule the inland sea, because the Yartar is on this sort of Great Lake-sized inland sea in my world. So he's like, I need Hekaton out of commission. So he's captured Hekaton, not just to pull him out of commission, but because, again, the Kraken and the Aboleths, who I've allied with the Kraken, like in my idea of what the Kraken is that it's almost like an ancient Aboleth. They're all kind of related to one another. Like the Aboleths are the young ones, and almost like an ancient dragon or a Pokemon, they evolve into this massive sea monster. They go from those sort of whale-looking things with some tentacles into this massive sea monster. So they're all kind of related. So the Aboleth at the Yartar, after running Kraken's Gamble, the Aboleth at Yartar is working for Kraken. It's all interrelated. But the Kraken has decided he wants to replace Hekaton with one of his cultists, essentially. He's gonna do like this ritualized brain swap. So using his psionic abilities and magic and everything, do this huge ritual and get another mind into Hekaton's body. And that way, Hekaton can come back and be like, "Hey, look, it's me. I'm the Storm King, and I'm back." And he can sit on the throne, and Slarkathral has a puppet leader of the Storm Giants. Which, when I thought of this, I was like, "Oh, this makes so much more sense now." Sarkathral's whole goal is to spread influence. He's this ancient creature, and he's just like, I'm tired of lying around at the bottom of the sea. I want my cultists to take over. He's Cthulhu-esque, but more conniving. Less destruction, more mob boss mentality, I guess. So, yeah, Queen Neri can't be raised. King Hekaton is trying to be replaced. That's why he's on that boat. He decided to help Iymrith because, he saw that Iymrith had similar goals. So, again, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Iymrith is trying to cause trouble with the Giants. I haven't really decided in my mind how Iymrith and the Kraken hooked up or whatever. Like, how did they decide that they're kind of working together? But they're working together. You just kind of hand wave some of that stuff. Now, why is Iymrith doing all this? Well, obviously she wants to start a war between the Giants and Smallfolk, but her motivation is that in my game, Tiamat hasn't yet attempted to come back into the realm. So the Horde of the Dragon Queen, Rise of Tiamat sort of storyline has not occurred, but is on the cusp of being there. And so she, Iymrith, wants to be one of Tiamat's avatars, basically. She's placing herself to be the right-hand lieutenant. She's like, if I cause a huge problem between the Giants and Smallfolk and stuff like that, while all this distraction is going on, Tiamat can come back, and then I will be a ruler. I'll be one of the dragon avatars of Tiamat, whatever. But basically, she wants the power. She wants to be one of Tiamat's chosen few. Klauth, on the other hand, does not. Klauth is this massively huge red dragon. He's got a domain. He's got his cultist worshippers already. He's kind of like, he likes the status quo. He's not really keen on the boss lady coming back and looking over his shoulder. You know, he's happy being like the oldest, most massive dragon in the realm. So I've decided that that's the reason that Klauth is sending some aid to the party in the form of the airship and other minor boons. But he's just kind of keeping an eye on things. He doesn't necessarily want Iymrith to succeed, but he doesn't want to get too involved either because he doesn't want to piss off Iymrith and he doesn't want to piss off Tiamat. He's just kind of holding back. He's basically like waiting, pulling his own puppet strings to sort of see if he can foil plans without making it seem like he was that involved. So now all these villains and their motivations are becoming a lot more clear to me. Okay, you know, Iymrith wants to be Tiamat's gal. You know, Klauth does not. The Kraken wants a puppet Storm King on the throne. He wants to take over Yartar. You know, and if he'll control both the sea and the giant inland sea. That's a major part of my game world. So, you know, he'll have like a real much bigger network than just the coasts, just some people on the coast, as it were. He'll be on the inland side as well. So that has sort of pulled all these threads together for me. Now, coming into Maelstrom, I wasn't really crazy about the way Maelstrom was written, and I did some searches on the internet, and I found this really great post on Reddit, which you guys may have heard of already, but if you haven't, you absolutely have to read it. And basically, it's somebody who ran Maelstrom a year or so ago, at least 12 months, maybe even 18 months ago, and basically created this fantastic role-playing scenario for Maelstrom, for the giant lords, and whatnot. And the idea is that the party has to come in there, convince there's a war council going on. So Serissa doesn't want war. Her sisters do. Iymrith does as well as a consular. Uthor is not certain. He supports Serissa, and he doesn't trust small folk. But you know, so of course Iymrith is trying to work her charms at the court to say, you know what, we giants need to show the small folk who's boss. They killed Neri, Hekaton's gone. We gotta show them. And so they've summoned some of the other giant lords to the Maelstrom to have this war council decide, okay, are we going to war as a group with the storm giants in the lead, saying, you know what, we endorse this. We're gonna tell all the tribes to start, you know, warring against the small folk. And the PCs have to come in there and convince Serissa not to do that. Well, convince the other giant lords, because Cerissa's only one vote of this whole war council. And she has some sway, but she's not her father. So the ordning's broken. Her father's no longer on the throne. She's seen as a weak ruler by the other giants. So they're going to try to persuade her to go to war. Now I've created a link between the party and Serissa as well. One of the players who was orphaned, you know, as many D&D characters are. The player's character who was orphaned had the sailor background and lived on the coast and whatnot. So I had a talk with him. I said, what if this occurred when you were very young? You were learning to become a sailor as a young boy. Your parents had taken you out, you know, and they had a boat or whatever. They were merchants. And, you know, a storm knocks you guys down. Everybody's drowning. And for whatever, and you're clinging on to wreckage and you get saved. And I didn't tell him by who. I just said, well, said you get saved by a giant from the sea. And you know, I just sort of built it up that, okay, Serissa has saved him as a little boy. He kind of knows who she is, but not really. He just knows that she was a storm giant came from the sea and saved him and whatnot. And so and then I slowly revealed who she was through the Oracle and through other things that occurred in the campaign. So now he has a connection with the Storm Giant. And he has a motive to try to help her. So yeah, the red thread. The whole idea is that so all these giants, fire giants, frost giants, hill giants, stone giants, are all have an assembly at Maelstrom. I made it so the party needed to have 2 conchs to get there, because each conch only transports 3 people in total, like 1 chieftain and 2 lieutenants or whatnot, or 2 handmaids, or et cetera, et cetera. And so that way the party did have to interact with more than during the course of the campaign. They got the fire giant conch, and they got the cloud giant conch. And they got the fire giant conch by causing a ruckus and stealing it, and they killed some of the fire giants in the fire giant place. They actually got the cloud giant conch because they freed Felglos. Felglos kills Sansari's child, but my cleric casts Revivify before it was too late. And since resurrection magic is not currently functioning for giants, this put Sansari in a huge debt. She basically said, they then parlayed. They said, okay, we know you freed the dragon for whatever reason. You thought that was a good idea or whatever, but you freed the dragon, but you saved my child, and so we're not going to kill you. So I will grant you one favor. They said, we would like to borrow your conch. She said, you have 6 months. I'm going to give you the conch. You have 6 months. I'm coming back for it 6 months, whether you're done with it or not. So they got 2 conchs. And that was actually a really, the Felglos subplot was really great. I'll talk about that in one of my other videos. It was a shocking moment. I wasn't sure I should do it because, we have parents, and the whole shockingness of a child being killed can be a little much. It can be a little traumatic, even in a game. But yeah, my party cleric ran over there immediately, cast Revivify. It was a really good moment in the campaign. I was a little bit uncertain about springing that delicate of a subject, but I know these people fairly well. We've been gaming for some years, so I felt it out. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. So they have to come in and convince the giants not to go to war with the small folk. So in the Reddit thread, it says, here's the giants, here's their personality, and some of that comes from the book, but the person who posted on Reddit really fleshed it out more. Said, they need to convince the stone giant. The stone giants are very religious, so maybe they could talk to them from that standpoint. The cloud giant is a narcissist and full of himself and can be bribed and stuff like that. Fire giants respect people who are tough, people who project strength, who are tough and stuff like that. So that's the fire giants. The frost giants, they had their own thing, but in my game, well, again, this is another thing I changed. In my game, the frost giants are actually after a set of artifacts, not just a single ring of winter, but there's the Winter King's artifacts, which are kind of like Rod of 7 Parts or whatever. But basically, it's 5 artifacts that work together if you collect all 5 of them. So there's a ring, there's a scepter, like a ruling scepter or magic rod, basically, a mace, a breastplate, and a crown. And the party has 3 of them because they fought an avatar of this Winter King. They didn't fight the Winter King directly. The Winter King is this very, very powerful fae, sort of. I haven't really fleshed all that out, but basically I let them know that he's this very powerful fae. They fought an avatar of him. They've got 3 of the items. The frost giants perhaps have the other 2. I haven't revealed how many the frost giants have. But the point is that all the artifacts are now kind of like, their locations are now known. So the frost giants could try to come get them. So of course the Frost Giants were going to ask for artifacts, even though it's not the same group. That's, the group that's at Maelstrom isn't necessarily the group that's out at Frostburg, whatever, Jarlsberg. That's the cheese. So getting back, the role playing scenarios went amazingly well. They didn't want to deal with the Frost Giants right away, so they were like, well, let's deal with a couple of factions that we don't have bad feelings. So they went to Stone first, and interesting, just like they had, just like the person who had written up the Reddit thread about this, my players went to the same place. I was trying not to lead them at all. I didn't want to railroad them into what I wanted the plot to do. I just wanted to lay out the role playing scenario for them. You have to convince the Giants not to go to war, and I gave them some clues about the personalities of the Giants, based upon things that they discovered or conversations they had and whatnot. And so they went for it. They said, okay, let's talk to the Stone Giants first. And they talked to the Stone Giant and found out that this guy's very philosophical and he's very religious, and they're like, oh, we need to tell him about the Oracle and what the Oracle said and stuff like that. And that I didn't even lead them in that direction. I told them he was religious and he was and whatnot, but then they said, oh, let's talk about the Oracle and let's talk about, oh, we communicated to Anam indirectly through the Oracle and blah blah blah, and so that was impressive to the Stone Giants, and then they got in this big philosophical discussion, and the Stone Giants like, okay, look, I'm not looking, my people are not necessarily looking to go to war with the small folk. Now again, the Stone Giant is not associated with the Stone Giants that are causing trouble. This is a different faction. And I kind of set that plot line aside. My players weren't really interested in following the Stone Giant stuff, and I was fine with that. I found it less interesting. I gave them, I led them to, not led them, but gave them the hooks that led to the Hill Giants, gave them the hooks that led to the Fire Giants. They kind of went to the Cloud Giants on their own. I didn't really press the Cloud Giants. I was going to try to pull the Frost Giants in because of the whole artifacts, them having found a couple of the artifacts in the Frost Giants, but actually they ended up kind of veering off and focused mostly on the Fire Giants, and so I was fine. I just let them go where they wanted to go, and I didn't try to sort of impose my plot onto them. I let them find their way through. But they impressed the Stone Giant with the talk of the Oracle, and they had blah blah blah, and they had made some persuasion rolls and whatnot. So the Stone Giant's like, okay, you can have my vote if you get some other people to vote for not going to war. So then they're like, okay, well, we got to go. Who do we go to next? Well, we have a good relationship with the Cloud Giants. We haven't really come up against them. We saved Sansuri's child. Maybe the Cloud Giants. So then they go to meet the Cloud Giant. Again, he's very vain. He's over the top. He has lots of pretty, things in his room. He's, he likes wealth and he likes power and stuff like that. So, I kind of played him as this over the top sort of noble who looks down his nose at them, and it's just like, he's like, okay, look, I know what you want. What's in it for me? You guys are just these little people. What do you want from me? And what do I get out of it if I help you? And again, my party has 3 of those artifacts. So the cleric has the mace, which has some decent enchantments on it, and the sorceress has the crown and the scepter, because she's using the scepter as her focus, and the crown has some ice-based powers as well. That she's a sorceress, but she focuses her magical focus is ice things. So when they found the Winter King stuff, it fit really well with the players. So the cleric was like, well, I'm going to give up the mace. And then I told him, you don't want to give up the mace, because there's these are powerful artifacts. And so they're influencing him as much as, So I said, you don't want to give up the mace. And so I had him roll like a wisdom check to see, basically do a will, that he he has this powerful artifact, and he's like, well, I don't really want to give it up. And he actually rolled well, and it says, okay, you can give it up. But then the sorceress is like, he's like, no. I see that Marcus wants to keep his mace, that he's having second thoughts about giving this up. I'm going to give my crown. And so I said, okay. Well, you make your roll, to give up these artifacts, whatever, because again, they're powerful. They have a draw, and she's like, I'm gonna give him the crown. And so the Claw Giant was just tickled pink. They're giving him these powerful artifacts, for his collection. And so he's like, okay, great, I will vote on your side, and I'll give you some intel about these other giants. The fire giants are impressed by strength, and the cloud giants are revered Anam, and the stone giant god, and whatnot. And he said the frost giants are going to want. He's like those artifacts you have. The frost giants are going to want them. You probably shouldn't give any of them to them. And he's like, you gave this one to me, and I'm not giving it to the frost giants. As a matter of fact, when you guys are gone, I'm going to rub it in their faces that I have it, and they're not getting it. So I created another rivalry. So we have this little bit of a rivalry actually going between the cloud giants and the fire giants, because the cloud giants are collecting magic artifacts and stuff like that, and they don't necessarily want the fire giants to succeed in their plan for the Vanadad, or if they do, they want to be in on it, because they don't want the fire giants to rise above them in the ordning. So they've been not necessarily working against the fire giants, but sort of collecting some of the same things, to have leverage with the Vanadad. And then now I've created another. Now the frost giants and the cloud giants have a thing, because this particular cloud giant has the crown of winter, and the frost giants have one, maybe two of the artifacts. I haven't decided. So the party has two, cloud giant has one, frost giants have two. So I'm sort of setting up some possibilities, even though the campaign is going to rapidly come to a close. If they survive Iymrith, it can go past that. So yes, so they got stone giants, they get cloud giants. Now they have to talk to the fire giants, and they don't have a necessarily good relationship with the fire giants. At least they don't have with Duke Zalto. But this is a different fire giant. I said, this is not one of Zalto's people. This is from a different group of the fire giants. So maybe you have a chance to talk to her. So they do. They go in saying, you don't want to have a war with small folk, because small folk are much more capable than you give us credit for. And so they basically say, this is what we did at Iron Slag, and look, we put down we killed Zalto's son, and we did all these things, and we damaged the Vanadad, and basically they talked themselves up, and they said, and not only that, but we have the dwarves from the mountains on our side. It's like, so if you guys go to war with the small folk, you realize it's not going to be as easy of a war as you think it's going to be. We will bring the hurt to you. And so in the Reddit post, of course, it says that the fire giants, admire strength and courage and forthrightness and whatnot, almost like a Klingon-like code of honor. And so she thinks about it, and my players have been sort of talking on the side prior to them meeting the fire giants, like, well, what do we do? Maybe we should challenge them to a duel or something, which is mentioned specifically in the Reddit thread. I didn't even lead them there. They went there themselves, because I had just told them that the fire giants, admired strength and courage and stuff like that. So they said we could do a duel. And so I did. I was like, okay, well, the players were already talking about that. I had her propose, and it mentioned that in the thread as well. She said, I'll tell you what, you get one champion. You can give him whatever, you can be wearing his armor and his magic weapon, whatnot, and I'll get my champion, and they will go head to head, and whoever wins, if you win, I will give you my vote. And if we win, and then, of course, because the storm giants don't want anybody killed, the agreement was it would be a non-lethal. It would be whoever fell would get healing administered to them right away, so they don't die. So, if there was an accidental death, well, maybe that happens. Like if there was a big crit, somebody dies. Well. But the point was is that it wasn't going to be purposeful. It would be two unconsciousness. Once one of the one either person yields or they go unconscious, then they lose. So the ranger had the giant bane axe, cloak of displacement, and some other magical item that helped buff them a little bit. But and they were about, I think, ninth level, if I recall. Yeah, I think they were ninth level. We leveled up to 10 just recently. But during the fight, they were ninth level, so they odds were against them. If the fire giant comes out and does well, gets some high rolls, swings well, he's going to go down in about 2 to 3 rounds, probably 3 rounds. Fire giant hits twice with his multi attack every round. The ranger's probably not going to last. 4 or 5 rounds if some of those are misses. So we knew it was going to be very tight, and we didn't actually think the ranger was going to win. But they wanted to put up a fight and see if they could convince her. He goes in there, first round, huge critical hit to the fire giant. The fire giant misses. Second round, fire giant hits, and hits pretty painfully, but he's able to do some damage back. Third round, the ranger crits again, and then the fire giant misses. Fourth round, another crit. Fifth round, end of the fight. The ranger crit, and in 5 rounds, I think it was only 5 rounds, maybe 6, but 5 rounds, the ranger crit 3 times, and the giant missed about 3 times, or at least did much lower damage than the average. Than you would think the average would be for a fire giant going 1-on-1 against a 9th level ranger. So they won, which was phenomenally amazing. I mean, the session ended on this huge note of them triumphing over the fire giants and winning that 3rd vote they needed. So yeah, it was a really great moment. And then the next session, I set up, okay, so now that they have the giants on their side, Iymrith has to try to take them out of the equation. Trick Serissa into thinking that they're here to kill. So she has Orlecto, who she has tricked. She's of course she's got Mirren and Nim on her side. She's got Orlecto, who's like their head guard. And he's been going around the party. He's been trying to, be an ally, pretend like he's a good friend, but he's actually working against them because he wants to go to war as well. He believes that the small folk have killed Queen Neri and that they need to go to war over that is a step too far. So Iymrith has planted her poison in some of the storm giants at Maelstrom. Some of them want war, some of them do not. So Orlecto goes, he brings the giant crabs. He's got one of Iymrith's handmaids, and they in the middle of the night, get the party out of the quarters. He makes up an excuse. He's like, oh, you got to come now. Frost giants are, you need to come talk to the Frost giants now. They're leaving. They can't be convinced. They're going to go to war regardless, and blah, blah, blah. But basically, I got them out of the room into the area where they're going to be ambushed. Meanwhile, while this was starting to happen, the rogue had snuck out already, saw that the crabs were coming out, that Orlecto was bringing them into this area, saw that the handmaid was there, and he just kept going. He was just wandering around, looking for Serissa. He has no idea where she is. It's the middle of the night. I said everybody's in bed or whatever. He's trying to sneak around, but he doesn't know his way around he doesn't know where she is. He sees this ambush, but he doesn't really put 2 and 2 together. Or if he did put 2 and 2 together, he's just like, they'll be fine, and he kept going off. So now I'm setting up this huge ambush. The rogue is wandered off. The party comes out. They go they have the big fight, stuff like that. They actually kill the crabs. They get Orlecto so far down that he decides to flee because he now knows the fight's turning against him and he needs to figure out what to do. They knock down Iymrith's handmaid, the giant gargoyle, who's so well disguised that everybody believes she's a storm giant as well. But then they cast Spare the Dying on her to keep her from actually dying, so that way they have somebody that the storm giants can question. And then they do a sending that says, "Hey, we're being attacked. You need to send your guardsmen to us because we're getting beat up by the giants. We didn't start it. Blah blah blah." So they've basically set up their alibi. They've gotten a prisoner. They did basically everything right that they could have done in that combat. It went really well. I probably should have given them another foe to make it a little more challenging, but that's right. It actually worked out really well. They're ready to accuse Iymrith. Oh, the ranger does his natural presence ability, whatever it is, that detects aberrations and undead and dragons. And so I said, "Yep, there's a dragon nearby." And then they knew. They're like, they had suspected, but then they knew. They were like, "All right, Iymrith is." They knew something was fishy with her, obviously, but they were able to sort of. They weren't sure if she was possessed by demon or like some other creature or something like that. But then I said, "Oh, there's a dragon nearby," and they're like, "Oh, yep, we know now." But they didn't tell the giants yet. They wanted to accuse her. So we do the thing. They get the audience with Serissa. They accuse Iymrith. She's like, "I'm not going to listen to this. I'm going to go." And then I'm sorry. And then Sarissa's like, "Hey, maybe you could just cast Stone of Truth, and if you're telling the truth, I believe you." And she's like, "Oh, I don't have to take this." And then she starts to leave, and then all hell breaks loose. They're like, "Oh, we got to get her. She's a dragon." Blah blah blah. And then Nim grabs the scepter from Serissa, and then the fight breaks out, and the dragon's casting all kinds of magic as the storm giant rather. And so big fight. They manage to, a couple of the storm giant guards manage to wrestle Nim and Mirren to the ground. So they get the scepter, able to get the scepter back. Iymrith gets out, though. She manages to escape down the hole. And so all this stuff happens, and then finally they reveal that, oh, she's really the dragon, and Nim and Mirren are like, we didn't know, and but they lock them in the towers, and Sarissa's like, okay, gives them the clue. Here's the golden goose coin. My players have been to Yartar before. They know the golden goose, so they're on a beeline back to that adventure quest. So that's it. Yeah, happy ending. Yay! They got ambushed, but then they figured it all out. Revealed that oh, this is a dragon. So they got their votes. They got the votes they needed to stop the war for now. They revealed that Iymrith was a dragon, and she was manipulating the sisters. When the sisters were arrested, the party was actually staying in Maelstrom for a few more days before they left. I actually had Iymrith come back, murder Nim, which is a little different than how it happens in the book. I mean, it happens in the Reddit post that the person buzz, but events happened in sort of a different way in my game. So, but I had her come back, murder the storm giants, murder Nim, basically to send a message to both the storm giants and the party that says, you're not safe. I'm a freaking ancient blue dragon, and I'm coming for you, and you're not safe. So that's how I kind of ended that second session. So that was the first session. First session ended with the all the role playing stuff, and the second session ended with the Iymrith stuff. So it went, I thought it went really well. So I absolutely recommend go read the Reddit thread. I hope some of my ideas about Neri and Hekaton and those things help you in your own mind decide how these things ended up happening. Anyways, I've been Marty. I'm Raging Owlbear on social media. That was my sort of run through of Maelstrom. I'm going to talk about Golden Goose. I've got some really great ideas for Golden Goose, and we're going to play them out in the next couple weeks. So I'll be doing a thing on that real soon. Won't be as long as this one. It's a shorter part of the pod. I had to bring everything together for Maelstrom, so this is a bit of a long video. Thank you for hanging out. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, click the bell notification. I do these videos so infrequently that you're not going to get notified a billion times. But because I do them infrequently, and if you're running in Storm King's Thunder, it might be good for you to get the video notifications from me. Give me like I said, give me a like, do the thing, click the buttons. I'm on Twitter. I've got my blog, and I do this. So please support me. That's all I'm asking. Give me some thumbs. I need some thumbs. Help me out. Help a brother out. Go through my videos and click, 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 click. I hope you have a good game. Storm King's Thunder has been a lot of fun so far, but I'm ready for it to end. And I hope these videos are helpful for you, because I'm trying to throw as many of the ideas as I've had out there as much as possible. All right. Have a good day. See you on the other side.